So it took me really long to learn discipline in a way that worked for me. You know, when I was a teenager and was growing up, I would read all of these self-help books about like productivity, and like I'd see these YouTube videos and these podcasts about like waking up at like 5 a.m. and like having the perfect routines and the perfect schedule, and like everything optimized, so that I could be as productive as possible and like ideally reach my goals and actualize the life of my dreams. And I tried this rigid discipline for so long and it never worked for me. I realize now it was fueled very largely by feelings of inadequacy, feeling like I wasn't good enough, feeling like I was incapable, in whatever way. And so I would always try to implement like all these habits and routines and like try to implement so many things at once. And then because it was such a big change that I'd try to make, like the structure would like fall apart because I just wasn't able to hold it, given my life at the time. And then all my routines would fall off, all my habits would fall off, and I would feel terrible about myself. I would like be very hard on myself. I'd beat myself up, tell myself I'm never gonna have the life of my dreams. I'm never gonna live the life that I want if I can't do this, if I can't stay disciplined. And like, I was like trying to like whip myself into shape mentally, because I just didn't think I'd live a good life if I couldn't stick to these routines and these habits. And so there came a point where I didn't try making so much big change at once, but then I tried implementing smaller things because I heard about, oh, you got to just implement 1 or 2 habits at a time because, you know, you can't shock the psyche too much. And this is a good mentality to have, yet still the way I was going about this whole discipline thing, I was very stern, very rigid about it. It was very largely egoically fueled because I believed that by doing whatever disciplined thing that I thought I should be doing, then I believed that by doing that continually, I believed that I would be good enough, I would be worthy, I would be adequate, I would be capable of living the life of my dreams, of having what I want, of being happy. And there was like a sense of me like not being able to like fully like love myself if I didn't stick to my routines, didn't stick to my habits. And I was very rigid about it. I would like design my days by the hour. I'd like write everything down and like on a huge document, all the changes I would try to make, and then it would just all fall apart relatively quickly, even if I tried implementing a little at a time. There are definitely some things I implemented that helped me a lot, such as, you know, going to bed at a similar time and waking up at a similar time each morning, reading, going on my phone less. There's definitely things that have helped me along that. But what I'm trying to tell you in this message is that very often trying to stick to a rigid discipline structure is fueled by this sense of shame, this sense of inadequacy, this sense that you're not good enough, that you're not worthy, etc. And that, I think, is what needs to ultimately be fixed if you want to have inner peace, inner harmony, which really that's what we're all after, even if we don't consciously realize it. And it's kind of hard going through this culture that we live in, this very capitalistic society that's always kind of pushing and striving and trying to, you know, get to the top and trying to make a bunch of money. And, you know, the cultural script is, you know, to be rich, to have a mansion and, you know, drive nice cars and have nice material things and be of respectable status, like be some like high up leader person or whatever. And that's like the cultural script that so many people are ingrained with, that you need to keep pushing and keep going up and up and up. And that is a lot of what fuels this kind of rigid discipline, this feeling that you need to be so productive all the time because capitalism wants you producing things. And to have inner harmony, to have inner peace, you kind of have to let go of that mindset that you always need to be productive, that you need to keep pushing, you need to keep striving, because it's ultimately at odds with inner peace, which, if you're watching this, I would guess that you want inner peace. The title probably resonated with you. Be gentle with yourself. No need for rigid discipline. And so it was only really this year that I really started being gentle with myself and living more intuitively, and things really started changing. And I actually, counterintuitively, I was way more disciplined when I became more gentle with myself. And before I talk about staying disciplined while being gentle with yourself, I also want to just say, before I get into that, is that sometimes this pushing, striving mentality, this kind of rigid discipline, it actually can be valuable for a time, especially if you're trying to build something, trying to build a business, you're trying to have financial abundance, you want to get just your finances on secure. Then being in that really pushing, striving mentality can actually be beneficial for you. And then you may need this rigid discipline. You may need to be highly productive. I'm not saying it's completely useless and to throw it out the window. There's times to push a little bit more, times to go back a little bit more. But what I really want you to think about is like, why do you feel like you need to be so rigidly disciplined? Why do you feel like you need to wake up at 5 a.m. every day? Why do you feel like you need to work for 10, 12 hours a day? Why do you feel like you need to do that? Why do you feel like you need to become this big, amazing person that you feel that you aren't now? Why do you feel like you need to become that? I guarantee it's probably because you just don't feel good about yourself now. You don't feel good enough. You feel inadequate in whatever way. I'd probably guess that's the case. At least it was the case for me. And so I didn't really find true discipline until I gave myself that self-validation, that love, and also just stepping into that trust with myself and also with the universe as well, that, whatever I do today is the right thing. Whatever I authentically feel like doing today, whether it's in alignment with my discipline plans or not, it was the right thing. And so now discipline to me has become a much more intuitive endeavor. It's much more gentle. It's not so rigid. I still plan my days out the night before. I write a list of priorities I want. I even write like the time of day that I want to do these things, but it's a loose structure. Like, it's a structure, but it's a loose structure. I used to be just so dense and so rigid about it, and it would just collapse. It would just collapse. And so I think with discipline, it needs to stem from self-love, from feeling that where you're at right now is okay, accepting yourself where you're at. And then from there, you can kind of form this loose structure that is a structure, but it's also a bit flexible. It's not so rigid. It's not so, I need to do this at this time, and then this, and this, and this, and this, and this. It's a loose container. It's a loose structure where you're kind of like, hey, I have these things that I'd like to get done today, and maybe I can do it. It's most apt to do it at this time, but also, hey, if you're not feeling it, if you feel like doing something else, then go do that. And I know it's kind of a privilege to be able to set your life up this way. I'm out here on a Tuesday, just took a 7-mile hike to get to the spot where I'm at now. And I didn't even envision myself being here today. The night before, I had written on my journal like all these things I'd like to do today that's just more kind of basic business related things. But then I woke up and I just wasn't feeling it, and I came here. So I'll get to those things tomorrow or the next day probably. But I recognize it's a privilege that I have that freedom to do that. But it's also a sign of progress for me, because before I would never have let myself come here. I would have thought, I need to do this today to progress my business and my life so I can do all these things which will build to my ideal life, and only then can I be happy, and only then can I truly give myself the love and validation that I seek at my core. You gotta fucking stop that mentality of thinking in the future, then I will be happy. In the future, then I will have love. It's not gonna work, man. You have to find that within yourself now. And And I might have to make a whole other video on how to find that within yourself, because that's a whole long topic. Loving yourself, that's a hard thing to do. Really, really hard thing to do. And but yeah, when it comes to discipline, be gentle with yourself. Accept yourself for where you're at. Don't be so dense. Don't be so rigid. Let some room for spontaneity, and hold a loose container. Hold a loose container with your discipline, because it's kind of counterintuitive. Like, I found that when you hold the container more loosely, when you have the structure in a more loose manner, like, you kind of just feel more like free in yourself. Like, and that's what we kind of all seek at our core, is this like freedom that we can do whatever we want. And before, it was like when I had been so rigid and so dense about it, thinking I need to do this at this time, and then, you know, having everything perfectly planned out, it's like I didn't feel free. I felt like I was obligated to do the things that I felt like I had to do. And then when you hold this more loose structure, you feel more free. You're much more in touch with your intuition, your heart, and you naturally kind of gravitate towards the things that you authentically feel like doing. And if you know yourself, if you set your life up properly, if you're living an authentic life purpose, then naturally, when you're in this state of freedom, you'll just do the things that you want to do. And so you'll be disciplined and you'll get things done. How I kind of set my life up intuitively is I just wake up whenever I feel like it. I don't have an alarm clock. It's usually between like 6:30 in the morning and like 8 in the morning. And anytime between there, I'll wake up. And then for about 4 hours, I'll just do work related to the business. I might have client calls. I might be writing something. I might post a video or edit a video. It's really whatever is kind of on the agenda for that day. And then at somewhere in there, I'll have breakfast. I'll go to the gym. And then later in the day, I might go to work again, or I might just relax and chill with friends and family. It's kind of whatever is on the agenda and whatever is kind of what I'm feeling like doing for that day. And yeah, it's like a really peaceful existence. It's like just very, very chill, and it's totally like gentle, and like it's structured, but it's really loose. And I feel in my heart, I have more discipline than I ever have been in my entire life. I'm not perfect. I still kind of get sucked into the doom scrolling in the phone and all of that. I'm not perfect, but I feel more disciplined than I ever have been in my entire life. And it all stems from being gentle with myself, loving myself, validating myself intrinsically, and just leaving this pushing, striving mentality of our capitalistic society that we have to keep building and building and building. We must be more and more productive, more and more self-improvement, more and more personal development. Eventually, you kind of just have to let go of that whole narrative and just be free and be you. And that is what discipline has meant to me. I sincerely hope this video is helpful to you. Hope it resonates. Let me know in the comments, how your discipline journey is going, what your thoughts on discipline are, if this resonates or not. And that's really all I wanted to say, guys. I hope you guys have a great day, and peace.